Welcome back, true believers and all you merry Marvelites, to another interesting video on the channel where we are going to have a little bit more of an in-depth, laid-back discussion today, primarily pertaining to the current status of Marvel games and some rather interesting decisions that they have decided to make about the overall future of their current Marvel properties within the gaming realm. And as a little side note for the time of recording for this video is that today on June 15th is the last day of E3 2021. And after seeing all the different showcases for the event, I do personally think that this year's E3 was probably one of the worst E3s that we have ever seen. Even without the inclusion of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy and the Marvel's Avengers content updates that we did receive during the Square Enix presentation, I just found the majority of all the other conferences and showcase events to be rather lackluster and not anything too exciting within the grand scheme of things. Now granted, there are a lot of factors as to why exactly that is the case, primarily due to the fact that this was a completely online-only event since we are still socially distancing and not able to physically go back to conventions, especially for massive gaming events such as these. And while I do still thoroughly appreciate all the hardworking developers out there being able to simply show off their upcoming games given the current circumstances, I still think that the event as a whole could have been a whole lot better. So if you're someone who's actually interested in learning more about my overall thoughts on E3 in its entirety, I did make a video about the conference back a couple weeks ago, pretty much giving my thoughts as to what I felt like E3 represented back during the glory days of E3, and how I currently feel about it nowadays as a gamer at heart. And the reason why I bring E3 up at all is because this is where the entire concept of this whole idea came into fruition all the way back in 2016, where that was the main event during Sony's press conference, which I'm sure all of you can vividly remember like it was yesterday, where Insomniac Games and Marvel decided to officially announce their brand new AAA action-adventure open-world Spider-Man game. And if you guys know me, which I certainly hope that you do at this point, is that is the announcement which fully inspired me to start doing YouTube as a full-time career. And having been able to actually go on this journey with all of you for a total amount of over 5 years has been nothing short of a blessing, and I'm really truly grateful to see exactly how far the channel has come and see even more massive AAA Marvel games be announced ever since then. Because not only do I thoroughly love everything that Marvel's characters and its stories represent, but I also specifically love seeing them be inputted into these massive AAA gaming formats that can truly encapsulate players in a way that the comics and movies just aren't able to. And after the incredible launch and the insane amount of success that Spider-Man received back in 2018 from both critics and fans alike, it really got everyone else in the Marvel realm truly excited to see exactly what other games could be developed next, potentially creating the primary equivalent of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we have seen from the movies into game form with the Marvel Gaming Universe, which would essentially create a massive variety of AAA Marvel games in several different genres while all seamlessly connecting them into one cohesive universe. Even though Roseman himself stated all the way back in 2016, right when Spider-Man PS4 was initially revealed, is that game was going to be the first installment into the foray of Marvel going into the AAA video game format. And of course, that was then fully solidified between the multi-year multi-game partnership with Marvel Games and Square Enix that was announced all the way back in January of 2017 with the announcement of the Avengers project, which we now know as Marvel's Avengers, which obviously has recently been followed up with the next installment of the Square Enix Marvel Games partnership with Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy developed by Eidos Montreal. Not to mention that there have been a few other Marvel games that have released in the past, like that of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Marvel's Iron Man VR, and also Ultimate Alliance 3: The Black Order, which was exclusive only on Nintendo Switch. And while those games in particular are either hit or miss amongst the general community, I'm mainly talking about the AAA Batman Arkham-esque style of Marvel game that we can see and can potentially see in the future from all these AAA developers, like Insomniac with Spider-Man, like Crystal Dynamics with Marvel's Avengers, whether or not you like it or hate it is up for you to decide, and like what we're currently seeing with Eidos Montreal in the Guardians of the Galaxy game. And of course, whichever developer decides to end up joining the Marvel front down the line. Because knowing just how innovative of an idea the Marvel Cinematic Universe was all the way back in 2008, with a total of over a decade's worth of films branching off into several different character storylines, while somehow all continuously connecting them into the same cohesive plot that built up to Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, I personally really wanted to see something like that happen within the video game format. Because in my opinion, I do think crafting the Marvel gaming universe, while also utilizing the full talent of all these incredible developers, and growing an ever-expanding Marvel world in several different formats into one cohesive storyline, would be something that we've never seen be done in the gaming industry before, especially relating to some massive IPs like that of these Marvel characters. Hell, even Insomniac themselves set a potential benchmark for what a possible MCU could look like back when they first released Spider-Man PS4 in 2018. There were a plethora of Easter eggs featured within that game that built upon the foundations that Marvel is known for while building an ever-expansive universe, while still prominently featuring Spider-Man as the core focus of the entire game. For example, we do get to see a boatload of iconic Marvel locations set within Spider-Man's iteration of New York City, mainly revolving around Avengers Tower, Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, Black Panther's Wakandan Embassy, Alias Investigations for Jessica Jones, Matt Murdock's law firm, Rand Industries, and so much more. Even the specific dialogue that Spider-Man mentions when you take a picture of Avengers Tower clearly states that he believes that they are located currently in the West Coast, which is exactly where they are by the beginning of the Marvel's Avengers video game during the A-Day sequence. Even when the Avengers project was first teased all the way back in 2017, we still thoroughly believe that this could be the start of formulating a bond between Insomniac's iteration of Spider-Man and Crystal's iteration of the Avengers, combining into one singular universe. But obviously, we now know that Crystal Dynamics is going to be making their own version of Spider-Man within Marvel's Avengers, who is exclusively going to be featured in the game only on the PlayStation system, who is not the same iteration that Insomniac made. So that relationship, I do understand, might have been a little bit of a stretch, considering that Spider-Man PS4 was clearly a PlayStation 4 exclusive back when it released in 2018, and Marvel's Avengers was going to be a multi-platform game ever since it was first announced. So having an exclusive Marvel AAA game connecting with a multi-platform AAA Marvel game may not have gone over too well in terms of marketing these different properties amongst general consumers. However, I still think Crystal may have shot themselves in the foot, considering that their own version of Spider-Man is still going to be an exclusive character only for the PlayStation audience, just like Spider-Man PS4 was and Miles Morales is for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So at that point, I don't understand why Marvel or Sony or Square Enix or whoever is making these business deals doesn't just take the currently most popular iteration of Spider-Man that we have seen in recent years with Insomniac's version and just implement him within Marvel's Avengers as a way to try and combine the two universes into a really great manner. But even though combining Spider-Man and the Avengers universes didn't work out, you would at least think that the Square Enix multi-year multi-game partnership would be the actual start of creating a Marvel gaming universe, considering that Marvel is going to be making several games that are published by the same exact company, which is a completely different situation where Spider-Man PS4 was directly published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, but now these next upcoming games that we are going to see from Marvel are directly coming straight from Square themselves, meaning that it would make the most sense for them to connect the universes of Marvel's Avengers and the upcoming Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game. Well, if you are someone who is looking forward to that, I am here to officially crush your dreams, because they did recently confirm straight from the developers themselves that the Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game is in fact not connected to either Spider-Man PS4, Spider-Man Miles Morales, or even Marvel's Avengers, which is also a game published by Square Enix, and instead it is going to be its own unique universe, fully focusing on just the Guardians. So 110%, this officially confirms that none of the massive AAA Marvel games, with that of Marvel's Spider-Man, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Marvel's Avengers, and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, are intertwined in any way, shape, or form. And as a bit of a sidebar, Eidos Montreal also confirmed that Guardians is not going to have any form of DLC of any kind, meaning that the whole game is going to be a completely finished product by the time it launches in October of this year. So that directly means that the Guardians of the Galaxy are not going to have any types of City That Never Sleeps DLC chapters, or any War for Wakanda-esque expansions to further evolve the game after it releases. It's just going to be a simple and clean single-player action-adventure story-driven third-person game, and I for one am actually very excited for that. But in short, when it mainly comes to the topic of the Marvel gaming universe, I kind of find this whole deal between Marvel and these different developers and publishers to be a little bit of a missed opportunity. On one hand, I do completely understand why these developers and publishers are not connecting any of these AAA games in any way, because that then allows the developers themselves to fully visualize their own unique vision of the characters that they are making a game of without constraining them to the overall broader storyline that might be affecting the plot of these other games if they were to be connected into a massive gaming universe. So, for example, let's take the finale of Spider-Man PS4 and say that while Peter was fighting Otto at the top of the Oscorp headquarters in New York City, what if the Avengers were to come and intervene and simply take out Otto for Peter instead of having to fight him one-on-one? That would in turn massively hinder the overall storyline that was surrounding Peter and Otto's characters and fleshing them out even further as the main protagonist and antagonist of that entire game. However, on the other hand, as I mentioned previously, I do think this could have been something truly unique and special that has never been accomplished before in this big of a scale when it comes to the gaming industry. Because imagine if we were to receive a type of Endgame / Infinity War style massive AAA Marvel game, say 5 to 10 years down the line, where it would have included every single one of these characters that we have gone and played through with their own unique games and combine them into one main experience, creating a massive Marvel game that none of us have ever seen before. And I know damn well that a game like that would probably only be accomplishable on a system like the PlayStation 6 or the Xbox 50,000, whatever number it would be called down the line, but just imagining that simply gets my fanboy side immensely hyped in more ways than you can possibly imagine. So for better or worse, we are just going to have to stick with the fact that every single one of these individual Marvel games are set with their own independent universe without needing to connect with other characters and or properties down the line. But still, depending on what exactly these developers have in store for these characters, their games, and their own unique storylines is something that we're just going to have to wait and see on. Although I will say that the Insomniac iteration of Spider-Man that they have made with Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales is easily my most favorite version of the character that has been featured in any form of main media. And while I was left unimpressed when it came to Marvel's Avengers, I really hope that Square can turn the tide by the time that Guardians fully releases. And with all that said, everyone, that's the video that I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. What do you think about this, knowing that the Marvel gaming universe is essentially a dead dream at this point, and would you personally like to have seen a Marvel's Endgame style game down the line, or are you a fan of all these developers taking the independent route and making their own universes as they see fit? I'd love to hear every single one of your thoughts in the comments section down below, and until next time everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Stay merry Marvelites, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and until next time, peace out.